sexually assault a woman in Monterey, California?
I have, as far as the media is concerned, I'll keep this very simple. The matter was fully investigated, and I was completely cleared, and that's where I'm going to leave it. Thank you very much.
Overnight, a police report was released detailing a 2017 sexual assault allegation against Fox host Pete Hegseth.
The New Yorker's Jane Mayer released a jaw-dropping piece this morning about Hegseth. A previously undisclosed whistleblower report on Hegseth's tenure as the president of Concerned Veterans for America from 2013 until 2016 describes him as being repeatedly intoxicated while acting in his official capacity, to the point of needing to be carried out of the organization's events. The detailed 7-page report, which was compiled by multiple former CVA employees and sent to the organization's senior management in February of 2015, states that at one point, Hegseth had to be restrained while drunk from joining the dancers on the stage of a Louisiana strip club where he had brought his team. The report also says that Hegseth, who was married at the time, and other members of his management team sexually pursued the organization's female staffers, whom they've divided into two groups, the party girls and the not party girls. In addition, the report asserts that under Hegseth's leadership, the organization became a hostile workplace that ignored serious accusations of impropriety, including an allegation made by a female employee that another employee on Hegseth's staff had attempted to sexually assault her at the Louisiana strip club. In a separate letter of complaint, which was sent to the organization in late 2015, a different former employee described Hegseth being at a bar in the early morning hours of May 29, 2015, while at an official tour through Cuyahoga Falls, Ohio, drunkenly chanting, "Kill all Muslims, kill all Muslims." In an email, one of the whistleblowers that contributed to a report on Hegseth stated that he treated the organization funds like they were a personal expense account for partying, drinking, and using CVA events as little more than opportunities to hook up with women on the road.
And I want to say thank you for your belief in my son. We all believe in him. We really believe that he is not that man he was 7 years ago. I'm not that mother. The other thing I want to say is I am here to tell the truth. To tell the truth to the American people and tell the truth to the senators on the Hill, especially our female senators. I really hope that you will not listen to the media.
I've never had a drinking problem. No one's ever approached me and said, "Oh, you should really look at getting help for a drink." Never. I've never sought counseling, never sought help. I respect and appreciate people who do. But, what do guys do when they come back from war oftentimes? Have some beers. I will answer all of these senators' questions, but this will not be a process tried in the media. I don't answer to anyone in this group. None of you. Not to that camera at all. I answer to President Trump, who received 76 million votes on behalf and a mandate for change. I answer to the 100 senators who are part of this process and those in the committee. And I answer to my Lord and Savior.
2020, then President Trump directed former Secretary of Defense Mark Esper to shoot protesters in the legs in downtown D.C., an order Secretary Esper refused to comply with. Would you carry out such an order from President Trump?
Senator, I was in the Washington, D.C. National Guard unit that was in Lafayette Square during those events.
Would you carry out an order to shoot
protesters
in the legs?
I saw 50 Secret Service agents get injured by rioters trying to jump over the fence, set the church on fire, and destroy a statue.
That sounds to me that you will comply with such an order. You will shoot protesters in the leg. Moving on.
Are we going to abide by the Geneva Convention and the prohibitions on torture, or are we not? Is it going to depend on the circumstances?
As I've stated multiple times, the Geneva Conventions are what we base ours. But what an American first national security policy is not going to do is hand its prerogatives over to international bodies that make decisions about how our men and women make decisions on the battlefield. America First understands we send Americans for a clear mission and a clear objective. We equip them properly for that objective. We give them everything they need, and then we stand behind them with the rules of engagement that allow them to fight decisely to defeat America's enemies.
Pete understands this, and you do that by putting on the uniform and actually being out there in the combat theater like Pete Hegseth has. I think he'll get easily confirmed. I dare any Republican senator to vote against him. That is not in their best interest. and we need to get him in place as soon as possible. Relief is on the way. This is exactly what I think America was striving for, and I can't believe how excited I am that Pete is going to be. I guess I got to call him Mr. Defense Secretary, but I still want to call him Pete.
What they want to do to make sure that department is properly oriented for the threats of the world and make sure that we're putting the warfighters first. That's what Donald Trump asked me to do. Your job is to bring a warfighting ethos back to the Pentagon. Your job is to make sure that it's lethality, lethality, lethality. Everything else is gone. Everything else that distracts from that shouldn't be happening.
Sources say Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth is said to have shared sensitive details about the strike in Yemen targeting Houthis in a second Signal group chat on March 15th that included his wife and brother, among others. This comes just weeks after Hegseth and officials mistakenly added an editor from The Atlantic to a group chat.
In this private Signal chat that included his wife, brother, and personal lawyer, the defense secretary shared specifics, including flight schedules of a strike in Yemen targeting Houthis back in March. The secretary's brother, Phil, and his lawyer, Tim Parlator, both have jobs at the Pentagon. Hegseth's wife is not a Defense Department employee, and none of them have any apparent reason to be briefed on military operations. This information reportedly shared is essentially the same attack plans he posted in a separate Signal chat that included the editor of The Atlantic. But unlike that chat, this one was created by Secretary Hegseth, and he reportedly used his private phone rather than his government one to access that chat.
Can you share how your information about war plans against the Houthis in Yemen was shared with a journalist in The Atlantic? And were those details classified?
You're talking about a deceitful and highly discredited so-called journalist who's made a profession of peddling hoaxes time and time again, to include the hoaxes of Russia, or the fine people on both sides hoax, or suckers and losers hoax. So this is the guy that peddles in garbage. This is what he does. I would love to comment on the Houthi campaign because of the skill and courage of our troops. You, and I mean specifically you, the press, specifically you, the press corps, because you cheer against Trump so hard. It's like in your DNA and in your blood to cheer against Trump. Because you want him not to be successful so bad, you have to cheer against the efficacy of these strikes. You have to hope maybe they weren't effective. Maybe the way the Trump administration has represented them isn't true. So let's take half-truths, spun information, leaked information, and then spin it. Spin it in every way we can to try to cause doubt and manipulate the public mind over whether or not our brave pilots were successful. How many stories have been written about how hard it is to, fly a plane for 36 hours? Has MSNBC done that story? Has Fox? Have we done the story how hard that is? Have we done it 2 or 3 times?
Do you have certainty that all the highly enriched uranium was inside the Fordo Mountain, or some of it, because there were satellite photos that showed more than a dozen trucks there 2 days in advance? Are you certain none of that highly enriched uranium was moved?
Of course, we're watching every single aspect, but Jennifer, you've been about the worst, the one who misrepresents the most intentionally. What the president says. I'm familiar.
Report about the ventilation shafts on Saturday night, and in fact, I was the first to describe the B-2 bombers, the refueling, the entire mission with great accuracy. So I take issue with that.
I appreciate you acknowledging that this was the first the most successful mission based on operational security that this department has done since you've been here, and I appreciate that. For too long, we've promoted too many uniformed leaders for the wrong reasons, based on their race, based on gender quotas, based on historic so-called firsts. We've pretended that combat arms and non-combat arms are the same thing. We've weeded out so-called toxic leaders under the guise of double-blind psychology assessments, promoting risk-averse, go-along-to-get-along conformists instead. We became the woke department, but not anymore. This administration has done a great deal from day one to remove the social justice, politically correct, and toxic ideological garbage that had infected our department, to rip out the politics. No more identity months, DEI offices, dudes in dresses. No more climate change worship. No more division, distraction, or gender delusions. No more debris. As I've said before, and will say again, we are done with that. Basic training is being restored to what it should be. Scary, tough, and disciplined. We're empowering drill sergeants to instill healthy fear in new recruits, ensuring that future warfighters are forged. Yes, they can shark attack, they can toss bunks, they can swear, and yes, they can put their hands on recruits. This does not mean they can be reckless or violate the law, but they can use tried and true methods to motivate new recruits. You kill people and break things for a living. You are not politically correct and don't necessarily belong always in polite society. And as history teaches us, the only people who actually deserve peace are those who are willing to wage war to defend it. That's why pacifism is so naive and dangerous. It ignores human nature and it ignores human history. To the sailors and Marines of the Iwo Jima, Godspeed. It's an honor to be aboard with you today. You are an incredible representation of America and American power. So I charge you, it's not if, it's when. You're on mission. Narco-terrorists and drug traffickers are on notice. We will no longer allow the poisoning of the American people. And the full power of the American military, used precisely with a clear mission, will be used to ensure the American people are kept safe.
Secretary, on the Caribbean, there are about some 10,000 U.S. forces there. That's more than you need to just strike boats. What is the Pentagon gearing up for that requires such a buildup?
Well, we take the security of our hemisphere very seriously, in a way that, frankly, for far too long, previous administrations did not. The Western Hemisphere, our backyard, is important. The security of the American people is important, and we're showing that to the world right now. Narco-terrorists are on notice, and we have multiple ways and multiple platforms from which we can interdict. It's not just in the Caribbean, as people have seen, it's over in the Eastern Pacific as well, all up and down Central and South America. We've allowed the poisoning of the American people for far too long. It's frankly self-defense. It's self-defense to understand that narco-terrorists, designated terrorist organizations, should not be able to operate with impunity in those waters. So this surge is intentional and ongoing, and we hope that ultimately it clears out, changes the dynamic in our own hemisphere. So I'm obviously not going to talk about the particulars of why troops are where in every circumstance, but they've got a clear mission and they're executing. We're not building for peacetime. We are pivoting the Pentagon and our industrial base to a wartime footing. Building for victory should our adversaries FAFO. We are talking here about transformation, not toothless reform, and we're seeking it fast. Now, some will say that any effort to reform the Pentagon bureaucracy is punishment for real or perceived slights. We think that's nonsense. I'm not here to punish, we're here to liberate. I'm not here to reform, but to transform and empower. We mean to save the bureaucracy from itself. Because the chairman and I talk about this all the time. This is a 1939 moment, or hopefully a 1981 moment. A moment of mounting urgency. Enemies gather, threats grow, you feel it, I feel it. If we are going to prevent and avoid war, which is what we all want, we must prepare now.